Why parents always told me they couldn't afford a family vacation. So I stayed home until I spotted my sister's kids settling in a first-class seats on a Lavish flight. I didn't say a word, but exactly 1 week later, their world unraveled and they weren't smiling anymore. I've always been the other sibling, not the golden child, not the one praised at family dinners. Just there. My sister, Sarah, she was the star, the perfect daughter, the devoted wife, the doting mom of 2 adorable kids, the one our parents bent over backward for. And me? I was Daniel, the responsible one, the quiet one who didn't ask for much, the one who worked hard, paid his bills, and, unfortunately, always had a little extra when someone needed help. It started small. Danny, can you help with the electric bill this month? My mom asked once. Your dad and I are a bit tight. I just landed my first real job, so of course I said yes. Then Sarah needed help. Liam needs braces, she said over the phone, all sighs and guilt. It's just so expensive. I hate to ask, but I know you're doing okay, so I helped again. And again, covering bills, pitching in for surprise car repairs, buying school supplies for my niece and nephew. You're so lucky, Danny, Mom would say, smiling. You don't have all these responsibilities like Sarah does. Lucky, that's what they called it. I kept telling myself it was fine. It's family after all, and I wasn't struggling. No wife, no kids, no crazy expenses. But there was one thing I really wanted, to travel. It had been my dream for years. I saved, researched, imagined myself walking through cities I'd only seen in pictures. And yet, every time I got close, something came up. A family emergency, an unexpected bill, a guilt trip. So when I finally booked my dream trip to Italy, paid every cent myself, I told no one. It was the one selfish thing I allowed myself. Or so I thought. At the airport, I was standing in the economy boarding line, feeling that usual mix of excitement and exhaustion. Then I heard her voice. No, Liam, put your backpack down. The seats are huge. You don't need all that stuff. I turned and froze. Sarah, my niece and nephew. My parents, all of them, standing in the priority boarding line, laughing, relaxed, dressed in perfectly matched vacation outfits. First class. For a second, I thought I must be dreaming. The same parents who couldn't afford to take me anywhere. The sister who was always barely scraping by. Maybe they saved up. Maybe it was a miracle. And then my mom laughed. Oh, I still feel bad we couldn't bring Danny, she said, shaking her head. Sarah snorted. He wouldn't have fit in. Laughter. I felt like a punch to the gut. I clenched my jaw as the attendant called their group. I didn't say a word. I just watched them walk onto that plane, first class, completely unaware I had seen everything. And in that moment, something shifted in me. I didn't text, didn't call. For the first time in my life, I just let the silence be. Normally I'd check in, ask if they needed anything. But this time, nothing. And it felt good. Italy was everything I dreamed it would be. Wandering ancient streets, drinking espresso in tiny cafes, standing before the Colosseum and knowing I made this happen. I was happy, but at night, sitting on my hotel balcony with the city lights flickering around me, I kept hearing it. He wouldn't have fit in. It played over and over in my head, scratching at something I hadn't wanted to face. It wasn't about the money. It was about finally realizing they never really saw me. They laughed at me. I wasn't a priority. I wasn't even an afterthought. A week later, I landed back home. That's when the calls started. First, my mom. Hey, sweetheart. How was your trip? Her voice was way too cheerful, like she was trying to cover something. It was great, I said flatly. Oh, good. Listen, your dad and I were wondering if you could help out a bit this month. Just a little something for groceries. You know how things are. I let the silence stretch. Then I laughed. It wasn't even on purpose. It just came out. Sharp, bitter. Groceries? I said, like the ones you bought on your way home from first class. Silence. Then a nervous chuckle. Danny, that was different. We used airline miles. Sarah found a great deal. Don't. I cut her off. Sweetheart, it's not what you think. We would have taken you if you could have, I snapped. You just didn't want to. More silence. I could hear her searching for something to say. We didn't think you'd mind. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tight. You didn't think I'd mind? I repeated. No apology. No shame. Just casually admitting I was never considered. That was the moment I decided. No more bills. No more favors. No more being the forgotten son who existed to make their lives easier. 2 days later, Sarah called. I almost let it ring. But curiosity won. What do you want, Sarah? I said instead of hello. Oh, so now you're too good to talk to your own family? She snapped. I smirked. First class must have spoiled you. Oh my God. Danny, are you seriously mad about that? Grow up. I'm growing up, I said. That's why I'm done taking care of you. A pause. Then came that voice, the one she used when she wanted something. Sweet. Manipulative. Danny, come on. You know how hard things are for us. You don't have kids. You don't have real expenses. It's different for you. Right, I said. And yet I paid for Liam's soccer fees last month. Well, yeah, because you always do. Like it was obvious. Like it was my job. Not anymore, I said simply. Another pause. Then she laughed. Oh my God, she scoffed. You're actually serious. Wow, what a selfish little. I hung up, and for the first time in my life, I felt free. The silence didn't last. By morning, my phone was blowing up. First my mom. Mom, Daniel, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this is not okay. We're family. Families help each other. Call me back. Then my dad. Dad, son, don't be dramatic. You know your sister and the kids need your help. Just be reasonable. Then Sarah. Sarah, are you actually ignoring mom and dad? Wow, you really think you're better than us now? I didn't respond. Instead, I made coffee, sat on my couch, and soaked in the silence. Silence I hadn't had in years. Not with someone always needing something from me. It felt incredible. But by noon, the guilt-tripping turned into full-blown panic. Another call from mom. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a text. Mom, Danny, please. We have a problem. I roll my eyes. Another problem. Another fire for me to put out. Then a second text. Mom, it's about the house. That one stopped me cold. I sighed. I should have ignored it. But some stupid part of me still cared. So I called. What now? I asked the second she answered. She let out a dramatic sigh. Daniel, your father and I, we didn't want to worry you, but things have been tight. We're behind on the mortgage. I pinched the bridge of my nose. And you're just now telling me? We didn't want to burden you, she insisted. But now, we need your help. Help? I scoffed. You mean you want me to pay it? It's just this month, she rushed to say. Just to keep us afloat until things settle. Huh, I said, leaning back. Funny how you could afford first-class tickets, but not your mortgage. Silence. And a sigh. It wasn't like that, Danny. It was exactly like that. I cut her off. You didn't hesitate to spend money on Sarah's kids, but when it comes to your own son, suddenly the bank account's empty. That's not fair, she snapped. You don't know what it's like to raise children, to have real responsibilities. You're right, I said cold. Because instead of living my own life, I was too busy taking care of yours. Silence. Then, in a softer voice, Danny, we need you. And that was the truth. They needed me. Not out of love, not because they valued me, but because without me, their whole house of cards would collapse. I know, I said, but you're going to have to figure out without me. Then I hung up. And for once, I didn't feel guilty at all. The aftermath. The next few days were eerily quiet. No texts, no calls, no emotional ambushes. For the first time in years, I felt completely free. But I knew it wouldn't last. Sure enough, on day 3, Sarah showed up at my door. I heard the knocking before I even checked my phone. Sarah, I muttered, opening the door. She barged in without waiting. What is wrong with you? She hissed, slamming her purse on my counter. Excuse me. I raised an eyebrow. You know exactly what I'm talking about, she snapped. Mom's losing her mind, Dad's freaking out, and now I'm stuck in the middle because you've decided to have a meltdown. I crossed my arms. You mean you're finally dealing with it for once? She rolled her eyes. Oh my God, don't be so dramatic. You know they need help. You're just punishing them because you're jealous. Jealous? I repeated, laughing. Yes, Danny, this is about that trip, isn't it? You're mad we didn't invite you, so now you're throwing a fit. I shook my head. You really don't get it, do you? Sarah scoffed. Then please enlighten me. I took a breath, trying to stay calm. It's not about the trip, Sarah. It's about the fact that for years, I've been the one keeping this family above water. I've covered bills, helped with your kids, paid for every emergency while you, Mom, and Dad acted like I didn't exist, unless you needed money. She crossed her arms. That's not true, isn't it? I asked. When's the last time Mom called just to say hi? When's the last time Dad asked how I was doing? The only time my phone rings is when one of you needs something. And I let it happen because I thought that's what family does. But then I saw you all in first class, laughing about how I wouldn't fit in. Her face fell. I had her. So no, I continued. This isn't about the trip. This is about me finally realizing I was never part of this family. I was just your backup plan. And I'm done. Sarah opened her mouth, then shut it. No comeback. Finally, she grabbed her purse. Fine, she said tightly. Do whatever you want. But don't come crawling back when you realize what a mistake you've made. I smiled. Don't worry, I said. I won't. She slammed the door on her way out. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. After Sarah's dramatic exit, I braced myself for the next round. My parents were never the type to just let things go. I knew they'd try again soon. Sure enough, the next day, my phone buzzed. A message from Dad. Dad, Daniel, come over for dinner Sunday. We need to talk. I almost laughed. We need to talk was family code for we need something, and you're going to say yes. I had fallen for it 100 times before. Not this time. Me, I'm busy. A minute later, the phone rang. I sighed and answered, more curious than anything. Daniel, Dad started. His voice was calm, but firm. Enough is enough. You're being childish. Am I? I asked, leaning back. Because from where I'm sitting, I'm the only one acting like an adult. A pause, then a sigh. Son, you're making this harder than it needs to be. We're family. Families don't abandon each other. Abandon? I repeated. Like how you left me at the airport? Another pause. That's not fair, he finally said. We didn't mean anything by that. Maybe not, I replied. But you did not mean it either. Silence. Then the shift. Your mother's very upset. She's been crying. She just wants things to go back to normal. There was the guilt trip. So do I said. But normal means being treated like a walking wallet. And I'm done with that. That's not what this is about. Then why are you calling now? I cut him off. Why not last week? Or the week before? Why is it only when you need something? Silence. A long one. Finally, Dad said, I don't know what you want from us, Daniel. Nothing, I said. That's the point. Then I hung up. The next phase? Desperation. For days, nothing. No calls. No texts. Not even an unexpected visitor. Too quiet. Then one evening, as I was getting ready for bed, a message popped up. Sarah, hope you're happy. Mom and Dad are in serious trouble because of you. I roll my eyes. Me, they'll manage. Sarah, no, actually they won't. They're 2 months behind. The bank's sending notices. But I guess that doesn't matter to you. Me, didn't matter when you were flying first class. Sarah, oh my God, let it go. That was one time. Me, and that one time showed me everything I needed to know. She didn't reply. The next morning, Mom called again. This time I answered. Danny, she sniffled. We're in trouble. So I've heard. The bank, they're threatening foreclosure. I stayed quiet. I know things have been tense, she continued, voice shaking. But we're your parents. Please, just help us this one last time. Oh, that line. The same one they used the first time they ever asked me for money. No, I said simply. Danny, no, I repeated. You made your choices. Now you live with them. Silence. Then the switch, grief to anger. You're being selfish, she snapped. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. Done for me. I laughed bitterly. Name one thing. One single thing in the past 5 years that didn't involve asking me for money. Nothing. Not a word. And that was my final answer. Good luck, Mom, I said and hung up. When the smiles finally faded, a week passed. Then 2. And finally, I heard the news. Sarah had caved. She dipped into her savings to help them. Something she'd never done before. Not when she had me to do it for her. She was forced to cover the mortgage, the utilities, even some of their debt that had been piling up. And it wasn't going well. A mutual friend told me Sarah and her husband were now fighting about money. Turns out, he didn't even know how much my parents leaned on me. Now that she was the one footing the bill, it was tearing at their perfect little life. The smiles? Fading. And my parents? They were finally learning what it meant to struggle, without their safety net, without me. And me? I had never felt lighter. The silence from my family dragged on for weeks. I had expected more calls, more guilt tripping, maybe even another surprise visit. But after Sarah's last bitter message, everything just stopped. I wasn't naive enough to believe it was truly over. They weren't reaching out because they were too busy scrambling. And me? I was finally, blissfully free. For the first time in years, my paycheck was mine. I didn't have to send half of it to my parents to cover their bills. I wasn't stuck paying for Sarah's kids' school supplies or adjusting my budget around their needs. I started doing things I'd always put off. I gave my apartment a full makeover, bought new furniture, and finally splurged on that high-end espresso machine I'd been eyeing for months. Then I took another trip, this time to Japan, a place I'd dreamed about visiting since I was a teenager. And for the first time, I lived without guilt. No nagging texts, no so-called emergencies, no shame over spending my own money on myself. It felt like walking into a new life, one where I wasn't just a wallet to the people who were supposed to love me. Then came the unraveling. One night, I was scrolling through social media when I saw it. A tag photo from one of Sarah's friends. It was a shot of Sarah and her husband at dinner, but something was off. The caption read, "Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Hang in there, Sarah." Her smile looked strained. Her husband, Mark, looked exhausted. They both seemed to have aged in just a few weeks. Curious, I tapped into Sarah's page. The constant stream of happy family content had vanished. No beach vacations. No over-the-top birthday parties for the kids. No bragging. Just silence. I raised an eyebrow. Then, out of nowhere, a message popped up from Kelly, one of Sarah's close friends. "Hey, Danny, I don't know if I should be reaching out, but I thought you should know things are bad at home." I hesitated, my fingers hovering over my screen. "Why are you telling me this?" I typed back, "Because I know how much you did for them. And now that you've stopped, everything's falling apart." A few minutes later, another message came in, this time a screenshot. It was from a private group chat Sarah had with her close friends. I read the words she'd written about me. "Danny's such an idiot. He's just sitting there watching us suffer, like we deserve this. He doesn't care about anyone but himself. I had to drain my savings just to keep Mom and Dad above water, and they're still drowning. We can't keep this up. Mark's furious. He says it's our fault for depending on Danny in the first place. I swear to God, if he doesn't come crawling back soon, I don't know what we're going to do." I laughed. Crawling back? She still thought I was the one who needed them. Then came a call I didn't expect. About a week later, My phone rang from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Hello. Danny. I froze. It was my dad. I hadn't heard his voice in over a month. What do you want? I said flat. He let out a long sigh. Son, we need to talk. We really don't. Daniel, he said, his voice shifting to that familiar condescending tone. Enough is enough. You've made your point. But we're your parents, and this is getting ridiculous. I smirked. What's ridiculous? That I'm not financing your lives anymore. You abandoned your family over a stupid vacation, he snapped. There it was. Even now, he still didn't get it. This isn't about the vacation, I said, my patience thinning. It's about all the years I sacrificed for a family that never once appreciated it. That's not true, he said quickly. We always appreciated you. Then why was I never invited? I cut in. Silence. I could hear him breathing, hear the weight of the question land heavy on his chest. But he didn't answer it. Look, he said instead. We can fix this. Your mother and I. Fix what? I interrupted again. The fact that I finally set boundaries? The fact that you can't control me anymore? Because that's not fixing anything. That's just going back to the way it was. More silence. Then, a sharp exhale. Sarah's struggling, Danny. She needs help. I actually laughed out loud. Oh, so now Sarah needs me? She's drowning. Mark's talking about selling the house. The kids don't understand what's going on. Not my problem. Daniel, be reasonable. I'm being reasonable, I said calmly. For the first time in my life, I'm being completely reasonable. A long pause. Then his voice turned cold. So that's it? You're just walking away. You walked away first, I said. At the airport. Remember? More silence. Then bitter and clipped, fine. And he hung up. That was the last time I ever heard my father's voice. I thought my mom might try again. Another guilt trip, another desperate call, but she never did. Sarah? She ghosted me completely. A month later, I heard through someone else that Sarah and Mark had sold their house and moved into something smaller. My parents had downsized too. Finally forced to let go of the lifestyle they'd held onto for far too long. They spent years pretending they were better than me, pretending they didn't need me. Now, they were learning what life without me actually felt like. And me? I was free. Free from the debt. Free from the pressure. Free from them. I didn't know them my success. I didn't know them my money. And I sure as hell didn't know them my forgiveness. So I took a deep breath, blocked their numbers, and never looked back. For the first time in my life, I was living for me, and it felt incredible. It wasn't just the silence that felt new, it was the peace. The kind that settles in your chest when you finally stop waiting for the next crisis. For the first time in years, I didn't flinch when my phone buzzed. I didn't brace myself for another favor, another last-minute emergency, another reminder that my life had never really been mine. I started waking up without dread. I got back into reading, something I hadn't done in ages. I joined a local climbing group, picked up photography again, and filled my weekend with things I actually wanted to do. I stopped apologizing for existing, for choosing myself. There were moments, brief ones, when I wondered how they were doing. Not out of guilt, but out of old habit. Were the kids adjusting to the smaller house? Was my dad still pretending to be in control? Did Sarah still think I'd come crawling back if things got bad enough? But the questions never stayed long. I had taught myself not to linger in the past. That life? That version of me. The one who kept giving until he had nothing left, that guy was gone. And I wasn't going to resurrect him for anyone. Months passed. The seasons changed. And with them, so did I. I got a promotion at work. Not because I was hustling to prove my worth to anyone, but because I was finally focused. With no one siphoning off my time and energy, I was sharper, more grounded. I even started saving for a house of my own. Not for them, not for appearances, but because it was something I wanted. My name, my roof, my rules. Every so often, someone from the old world would try to reach across the gap. A cousin commenting on a photo. A vague, hope you're doing well from a distant uncle. But I kept my distance. Not out of bitterness, just out of clarity. I knew exactly what letting one person back in could mean. A crack in the door, and the flood would follow. I wasn't going to let it. Eventually, even those attempts faded. The family group chat, once filled with demands, guilt trips, and passive-aggressive comments, must have moved on without me. Or maybe they realized I wasn't coming back. Either way, the silence became permanent. And I welcomed it. I still think about what Sarah said in that group chat. He's just sitting there watching us suffer like we deserve this. She was wrong about one thing. I wasn't watching. I wasn't celebrating their downfall. I just stopped carrying it. I stopped wearing their chaos like armor. Stopped bleeding for people who never noticed the wounds. Forgiveness? It's a funny word. People treat it like a gift you owe others, like closure only counts if you tie it up with a bow and hand it over. But I learned something in that quiet, steady stretch of solitude. You can forgive without inviting people back in. You can heal without reopening the door. And I did forgive them. Not because they asked, not because they changed, but because I changed. I didn't need the anger anymore. I didn't need the weight. So I left it behind. One Sunday morning, I walked to the park with a coffee in hand, the sun warming my face. A group of kids were flying kites in the breeze, laughing like the world hadn't taught them to carry anyone else's burdens yet. I sat on a bench and watched for a while, breathing in that calm, full kind of happiness that doesn't need to be shouted or posted about. I wasn't anyone's safety net anymore. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was missing something. I felt whole, free, home.